Dear Sweet Granny Vanga had a prediction for just about everything. Is Vanga's prediction that by 2088, the Earth will be exposed to a new strain of virus unlike any other experience before, allegedly capable of aging a human being in a matter of seconds. That's not known how the virus spreads or manifests, just that once you're infected, you'll age up rapidly, and the next thing you know, you'll be in a retirement castle. Sounds very useful if you're trying to get into an R-rated movie as a kid, and horrifying under literally any other context. Now, if Vanga's prediction is already making your hair go prematurely gray, you should know that she also predicted by the year 2046 that humans would live well past 100 with a combination of organ transplants and cybernetic parts, so maybe aging up isn't that big a deal. Maybe by then technology will have advanced enough and we can just flip a switch and age back down like Benjamin Button. At least we've got upwards of the next 60 years to get a handle on this. Allegedly by the year 2097 the disease is eradicated. Or maybe we can all just improve our skincare routines a little bit. I hear removing wrinkles does wonders to reverse the aging process.
Number 4. Aliens. As always, if you dig what we do here on Top 5 Scary, make sure to hit that like button or comment down below which prediction she said that's got you shook. Vangelia has hit the nail on the head a couple of times now, huh? Why aren't there more people talking about her? We need some Netflix budget original movies about her, people. Let's go. It's scary to think that beyond the grave, there have been people throughout our history who still continue to defy the odds. She's the Nostradamus of our time. Well, apparently she's called a couple things beyond our galaxy as well, and recently, quote, the invasion of Earth by aliens with the arrival of an asteroid. Yeah, she just called that. I got about 46 hours last night on Reddit alone of aliens zipping around our atmosphere, but she's specific. She added asteroids into the mix. The blind mystic alleged that an asteroid named Oumuamua would be sent by aliens to seek life out on planet Earth. Well, it just so happens there, Baba, that Avi Loeb at the University of Harvard and the Galileo Project, yeah, they're convinced themselves as well. And remember that rock anomaly that buzzed through our orbit and then out again in 2017? Again? Yeah, like nobody's talking about this. How did she predict the name though? Like, can we get a deep dive on that? Is that true? She also predicts that by 2130, all civilizations will learn how to live underwater with the help of aliens. In other words, we're sending underwater probes to Europa next year, so I don't know, maybe? Baba Vanga smack dab in 2023 predicts that somehow the Earth's orbit will, quote, change. I mean, if we do that, the planet will be a total cataclysm, but maybe she was talking about NASA's DART program that just smashed into an asteroid like last week?
In the year 2111, Vanga predicts that we will start to cast off the weakness of our flesh and embrace the strength and certainty of steel to claim the purity of the blessed machine. Yes, of course, Vanga speaks to the Omnissiah and says that in the next century, technology and medical science will have advanced so sufficiently that humanity will become more mechanical than organic, which could take a little adjusting. Might want to watch yourself shaking hands if the guy you're shaking hands with has a titanium alloy with a hydraulic piston grip. Now, maybe I'm in a minority here, but this is actually a prediction I can very much get down with. I have been wanting cybernetic parts for pretty much as long as I can remember. I would probably redo all of this and chip in as much as possible. It goes in line with Vanga's prediction of humanity living to unreached life expectancy and achieving wondrous strides in science and technology. Of all of Vanga's many predictions, this one seems the most likely to me. I mean, we're already making such incredible leaps in prosthetic technology. Things like a cybernetic hand, which once seemed like something out of Star Wars make-believe, but in the last decade we've already seen advancements in the field of prosthetics, like limbs that move and ambulate like any other limb, controlled by the brain. And even recently, scientists and specialists have started to make progress on cybernetic hands capable of feeling touch, responding to heat. It's more likely than not that by the year 2111, like she outlined, we will start to see implants like that commonplace. Of course, who's to say what kind of new social problems that'll cause? Cybernetic discrimination? Ethics debates? All I know is that if we are going to start enhancing ourselves and mechanically alternating ourselves, I definitely want in immediately.
Number 2, washed up. Yeah, so again, the Long Island medium has got nothing on Baba Vanga. Speaking of Long Islands, some are disappearing and some are being created as we speak right now. Hurricane Ian is absolutely devastating the South right now, blasting all kinds of mess through the Golden Coast. Tsunamis and flooding is one of Baba Vanga's more worrying predictions though, as she has predicted a cataclysmic tsunami that would strike this year. Yeah. Thanks for the heads up, I guess? Baba is said to have first warned the world of a deadly 2004 tsunami that unfortunately took more than 200,000 lives in Southeast Asia. She then said to have warned of a similar cataclysmic event in the future in 2021, quote, difficult times will come, people will be divided by their faith, we are witnessing devastating events that will change in fate the destiny of our humanity, end quote. That just sounds like a Michael Bay movie summary. This tsunami prediction was said to hit in 2020, then 2021. Are we just late with all these floods down south right now on the calendar wise? Like, did we forget a leap year here or there? What's going on? Satellite images from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration showed beach houses, cottages, even hotels on the shores of Florida that have been demolished by flooding waters. Hit the Carolinas, Virginia, Florida, Cuba, Puerto Rico. More than 2,000 people have since been rescued, according to Florida's emergency, as a Category 4 hurricane with winds of 150 miles an hour. The National Guard, the Coast Guard, they're both working together right now. Ian is expected to slowly weaken this week as it heads inland to the north, but it's supposed to bring heavy rain and flooding to the mid-Atlantic. A flood watch is now in effect for a large portion of the south. Does it say anywhere that we make it out of this mess? Fires, floods, aliens? Like, give us a place to donate, would you?
Our number one spot for the scariest prediction by Baba Vanga is, well, the outright end of the universe. That's kind of a hard one to top. Now, don't run to the calendar just to check yet how long we've got left, because some good news is that even if Baba Vanga is correct, it won't happen in your lifetime, or your kid's lifetime, or your grandkid's lifetime, or your great-grandkid's lifetime, with Vanga predicting that the end of all of this and everything is going to happen around the year 5709. So we got a long way off to go before that happens. Before the curtains close on this whole existence thing, Vanga predicts that things are going to get pretty wild before the end. Apparently by the year 5706, our knowledge of the stars will be so vast that we'll be able to chart the entire known universe right to the edge of the galaxy. A few years later, in the year 5078, Vanga predicts that we're going to try and venture out past the Milky Way to see what else there is in our ever-expanding cosmos, and try to explore outside of our galaxy. Now, allegedly 60% of the human population volunteers to brave the new frontier past Andromeda, while the remaining 40% feel pretty comfortable in this universe and elect to stay at home. I'm probably the same way, to be honest. If I'm still ticking around 5078, I'm probably just gonna stick around here. This universe has all my stuff in it. Vanga interestingly didn't specify how it would end. I guess some things have to be left up for surprises. I wouldn't want the ending spoiled anyway. Just that in 5709, it would be the end of human civilization and the Earth as we know it. It's stressful, definitely, but at least it's not happening for a little bit, you know? We've got some time to plan. Number 5 on our list for scary predictions from the Princess of Prognostication for 2023 is a nuclear meltdown. Vanga predicted that soon another nuclear meltdown will occur at a currently unnamed nuclear power plant that will explode. Now, followers of Vanga have cited Chernobyl as proof of the oracle's soothsaying, believing that she predicted it years before it occurred. Now, if you need anyone to spell out just how bad a nuclear meltdown would be, luckily, and I use that term extremely lightly, we have Chernobyl as a harrowing monument to the dangers of untethered nuclear power. Chernobyl, if you don't know from not having seen the HBO TV show or the Call of Duty 4 level, which is where I get most of my information about world issues and politics, was a nuclear power plant outside of Pripyat that experienced a horrific meltdown. When Chernobyl's reactor burst, the blast was equivalent to the force of 500 nuclear explosions. Now, 1 is already just about the worst thing that could ever possibly happen. 2 is pretty bad. 500 is inconceivable. So I don't think anyone among us wants another one. There is obviously some worry with current conflicts over Europe that this could be what Baba Vanga is predicting. Outside forces and damage could trigger a chain reaction that leads to severe, long-lasting consequences. Chernobyl still isn't habitable by humans, and scientists estimate it won't be for the next 20,000 years. Which is a shame because honestly it does look like it could be a cool place to live. The sites are pretty cool. We can't afford another Chernobyl anywhere in the world with everything going on. In 1967 as well, Baba Vanga predicted that you would watch this video and give us a subscribe. It is just astonishing how well she was able to predict the future. Number 4, bioweaponry. I think we've all lived through enough biological disasters for one lifetime, right? I'm gonna spend the rest of my life with a bottle of hand sanitizer near me. Well, Vanga warns us that there could still be more on the horizon. One of her predictions for the near future is that she has prophesied that an unnamed big country will carry out bioweaponry research on human beings. She theorized that hundreds of thousands of people will be affected by these sinister experiments and that it could leak out into the rest of the world. Now, again, this goes without saying, but biological weaponry is banned worldwide. It's one of those things that really gets you into trouble. I mean, in 8th grade, I threw a booger at a girl and I was charged by the United Nations for biological warfare. The United Nations effectively bans any experiments or any conduct, such as stockpiling viruses and dangerous bacteria, but, you know, let's be honest, the UN says a lot of things and that doesn't stop everybody. There are some who theorize that bioweaponry is already being researched across the globe secretly. Things like weaponized viruses or chemical warfare, all very illegal, all very scary. I have played way too many of the Resident Evil games in my lifetime to not be terrified of bioweaponry. We've touched a bit on this subject on previous videos about Baba Vanga, but Baba Vanga predicted as well in 2022 that we would experience a new virus and a new pandemic. Recently, in 2021, researchers in Siberia uncovered 33 strains of novel viruses encased perfectly in ice, samples over 15,000 years old. Could this be what Vanga is referring to here? Personally, I think a secret organization making a bioweapon out of generations old viruses sounds way too much like the plot to a scary horror movie or video game than it does real life, so I'm very much hoping that Baba Vanga was wrong about this one. I mean, she's not always right, you know? You need a couple of them to be wrong to make the real ones stick out all the more. Number 3, virtual reality takeover. Hey, what's your favorite reality? Mine is occasionally this one, although I am pretty partial to some synthetic realities as well. It definitely seems like over the last few years I've spent more time inside digital worlds than I have paying attention to the world around me. I mean, can you blame me? Someone had to collect all those Korok seeds. Well, according to Baba Vanga, maybe we're all going to be spending a lot more time hooked up into our digital worlds. Vanga predicts that humanity is going to start absorbing itself into a virtual world. She said in 2022, people would spend more time online and in screens more than ever. Typical grandmother. It's hard to tell her she's wrong though. I mean, you're on a screen right now and I'm talking into a screen right now. We've seen the world become more online than ever in the past few years. Baba Vanga, you would have absolutely loved Black Mirror. They made like 5 seasons of that show. It was basically all about this. You don't really need to be a blind mystic with a gift for prophecy to predict that virtual reality is coming. I mean, Meta has made no secret about how they believe the metaverse to be the next greatest leap in human advancement. Although, if you want my advice, I think the visuals still need a little tweaking because I'm not sure that I want to leave behind all the beauty of the real human experience just to go live in a simulated reality where everything looks like I'm trapped in the loading screen for Wii Sports Bowling forever. Investors and tech startups are racing to be the one to perfect the metaverse, and I do think we'll get there eventually, 2007 graphics notwithstanding. Once we've plundered this beautiful world for all its natural resources and drained the seas and stars, I think we'll all come aboard Mark Zuckerberg's cold, desolate ark and live hooked up into the machine spirit. I'm very optimistic about the future, if you couldn't tell that. Number 2, water scarcity. What is the most important resource humanity has? Cadbury cream eggs? No. It's water, of course. As much as we think of water as an infinitely replenishing resource, we're running out of it faster than any of us would ever care to admit. Only 3% of all water on the world is fresh water, and 2/3 of that water is tucked away in frozen glaciers. The World Wildlife Foundation dictates that somewhere around 2.7 billion people find water scarce for at least 1 month of the year. Baba Vanga predicted that by 2022, the world would experience a global drought, leading to water shortages internationally. I mean, without it, we're nothing. And unless we all want to start wearing still suits like Dune, drinking our urine and sweat, we should probably try and do something about it, you know? Something on a big global scale maybe, not just paper straws. Countries across the world are already experiencing shortages. It goes hand in hand with the rising temperatures seen globally, with temperatures in Europe nearing towards 50 degrees. The UK this year experienced one of its hottest summers it had ever seen, and this year our July was the 6th hottest July on record, like ever, like since they started writing down information about how hot it was. This is one of those times where being really high up on a hottest list is not actually a good thing. Now, much like most people, I absolutely loved Mad Max Fury Road, but I think the parts that I thought were really cool were the cool cars and the leather jackets and punching guys in the sand, and not the part where post-apocalyptic tyrant warlords control the world by hoarding what limited water exists and oppressing the downtrodden. So I'd like to avoid that if we can. Also, I can't drive, so I don't really know how long I would last in the wasteland. Number 1, alien invasion. Our number 1 spot is also Vanga's most out there prediction, like out of this world out there. In 2022, Baba Vanga claims that an alien life is going to arrive on Earth traveling on an asteroid called Oumuamua to scope out the situation here. The name is Hawaiian in origin, meaning a messenger from afar arriving first. Kind of feel like if there was ever an asteroid that would very likely contain an envoy of visitors from another planet, it would have to be that one. I mean, listen to that name. Now, this asteroid is real, and it is an object from another solar system altogether, passing through for an intergalactic sightseeing tour. Now, not to burst your bubble too much, but this asteroid actually has already passed through Earth's orbit back in 2017, but I guess they didn't see anything too worthwhile yet. You know what, aliens, I gotta say, this isn't really the best time for us to have company right now over. As I've listed off in this video, we're kind of dealing with some problems right now. We're still kind of cleaning up a little bit. You know, give us some notice. We just need to clean out the cupboards, fix a few of our global catastrophes, end all conflicts, get everybody to be friends, and then we can have you guys over. Recently, NASA just deflected an asteroid in a historic moment, successfully deflecting an asteroid's course. Probably a huge flex to the aliens, letting them know straight up, hey, if you guys want to swing by on an asteroid and we're not feeling it, we can just push you out of the way with an interplanetary do not disturb sign. But don't feel too threatened about that, please, aliens. We were just trying out our new asteroid deflecting software. We're not the most friendly species, but if you guys want to come check out what we're doing, we can meet in the middle somewhere, maybe on some neutral ground, maybe the moon. We put a flag up there, but I promise that's not ours. You know, we can just share that. Number 5. One of the earliest on Baba's prediction list is that by 2023, Earth will have shifted sufficiently enough to alter its orbit. Now, we don't fully know what she means by that, but I can tell you that if Earth's orbit were to change at all, the consequences would be absolutely disastrous. I'm not entirely sure how Earth is supposed to shift orbit. Maybe we're all gonna get too heavy, we'll throw the gravity off, maybe we're jumping around too much. Anyway, the universe works in a very specific way. It's very finely crafted. Everything is exactly where it should be. And if that balance gets thrown off, it'll affect, well, you know, just about everything. The Earth shifting its orbit would immediately result in increased temperatures, soaking the world in radiation. Increased temperatures would lead to glaciers melting, sea levels rising, and that usually leads into chaos across the globe. Of course, if we shifted off our orbit, it wouldn't stop there. We'd also experience a new ice age and crushing periods of extended darkness, which would spell disaster in ways we couldn't even comprehend on the ecosystems. And most worrisome of all, we would basically give vampires a key to the Earth. I have to assume that our position in the solar system is the only thing preventing them from taking over right now. Like I mentioned, this is supposedly supposed to occur in 2023, so luckily we can find out really soon if this one is coming true, and for all of our sakes, I sincerely hope not. Number 4. Another claim for 2023 is that we will experience the end of natural live births altogether. Vanga claimed that going forward, all birthing will be done in laboratories. World leaders will decree what the people of each nation should look like, and they will be able to finely tune their physical and appearances like we're all characters in The Sims. Well, that actually might be kind of fun. Do you think we'll be able to do that after we've already been born? Wouldn't mind customizing myself up a little bit, you know, tighten up the jaw, add a couple cool scars, maybe one over the eye like Geralt. This one is definitely a bit out there compared to some of the other ones on the list, but there is some truth to the words. The birth rate is declining right now. In 1950, the birth rate was 36.9% per 1,000 people, while now it's only 18.5%. And some analysts predict by 2050 it could dip as low as 14.6%. So maybe in the future we will start to see more of a push towards this kind of thing, lab birth and all that. That bit about world leaders deciding what their people look like though, I don't know about that. I feel like people would disagree with that. What if the current leader only wants children that look like Danny DeVito? You're really gonna wait 9 months for a Danny DeVito baby? A whole society of DeVitos run it? No, actually, the more I'm talking about this, I want this. This is a prediction I hope comes true. Number 3. Another of her predictions say that by the year 2046, technology will have advanced sufficiently enough that the average life expectancy will raise past 100 due to rises in organ transplant technology and prosthetic and cybernetic implants. Now that is something I can really get into. I have been wanting cybernetic everything since I saw Luke get that sweet robot hand in Star Wars. This technology has been advancing with every year, with the stuff of former sci-fi legend becoming more and more practical and real. The prediction goes on to state that in the near future, organs will be grown and sold like any other product, developed en masse and distributed internationally. The ramifications of that would be unbelievable. Imagine for a minute how many illnesses and diseases would just disappear overnight if you were able to order a new kidney on Amazon and have it delivered to your house the next day. While we're not quite at the level where we're 3D printing lungs and shipping them out, scientists have actually been experimenting with growing human organs in labs, with liver buds being grown from human stem cells. Now the technology is still pretty far off, with these little mini organoids lacking key features that real organs do, like, you know, growing. mostly being used to study for now, but in some cases, these lab-grown organs have actually been transplanted into mice successfully. So who's to say what progress will look like in the next 10 years' time? Well, Baba Vanga, I guess, she's the one to say, that's why we're doing this. Number 2. Another of Baba's predictions is that the world will experience something called a solar tsunami. And if the name isn't enough of an indicator, it really does not sound that pleasant. So if you are picturing a delightful wave of summer sun, why don't you keep thinking that? A solar storm is a burst of energy from the sun which sends electrical charges, magnetic fields, and radiation towards the Earth. This effect is what creates the northern lights, which are very pretty, but the solar tsunami Vanga predicted would be one of cataclysmic proportions, claiming that it would be powerful as billions upon billions of nuclear weapons descending on the Earth. Solar storms are predicted to cause mass damage to technology, causing worldwide blackouts, with some doomsayers going so far as to say that it could cause a worldwide technological shutdown, sending humanity back to the Dark Ages. Might be the first thing to get me off my phone for 5 minutes, so maybe that wouldn't be such a bad thing. This kind of thing does occur already on a much smaller scale, with some smaller solar waves causing radio blackouts, but luckily, nothing on a massive scale of a full-blown solar tsunami has occurred yet. Baba Vanga never gave a time or a date for when she thought the solar tsunami would occur, just that it was on the horizon for humanity, and we should be expecting it, I guess, sometime. So I guess keep checking the weather app, and if it shuts down while you're checking it, and all the lights turn off in your house, yeah, that's probably a bad sign. Maybe, I don't know, get into the bunker, stock up on tuna and beans. Number 1. I know, we just did a virus. Well, keep the masks around maybe. Because before her passing, Baba Vanga predicted that due to climate change melting the ice around the world, a new virus would be discovered in Siberia and the world would experience another pandemic. I don't know, a sequel that's similar to the first? I feel like it's been done before, kind of played out. Well, in July 2021, a team of researchers discovered within 2 samples of ice from the Tibetan Plateau that contained ancient viruses, locked away and preserved in the virus like the mosquito from Jurassic Park in the amber. According to the analysts, these ice samples were at least 15,000 years old. The researchers also discovered embedded within the ice samples were 33 viral genetic codes. While 4 of the codes were recognized viruses that usually attack bacteria, the remaining 28 genetic codes were novel, meaning that this is the first time they've been discovered, like a time capsule just full of stuff to make you cough.
Number 5 on this list is an alien attack. Baba Vanga believes that in 2022 we will make our first confirmed public communication with aliens, and that it won't go as well as we hope. She says that we will interact with these intelligent beings and that they will send ships to Earth and bomb our cities and take humans as their captives. Now in April 2022, the Defense Department of the United States released videos of what was called an unidentified aerial phenomena. If you've ever seen the video, then you know that the object was not flying in any way that our technology currently can. It was moving around almost like a dragonfly could, moving seamlessly through the air at extremely fast speeds. Many people have speculated that this was the work of aliens, and as of right now we don't have any human explanation for it. It should also be noted that we are always sending out communication waves into space to see if we get anything back. Would I be surprised if 2022 was the year that we got something back? Well, yeah, no, I probably would, but I can also see the reality of it happening as well. I also want to point out that our definition of alien kind of implies that something from a different world will come and take over, and that's also what Baba Vanga has insinuated. However, what about AI? Artificial intelligence is a completely different way of thinking than we have, and therefore alien to our human brains. I'm not just pulling this out of thin air either, but some experts have started to refer to artificial intelligence as another alien being as it gets smarter and smarter. I could totally see a reality where AI gets smart enough and begins some type of attack on the human race. This wouldn't really fit into the whole narrative of Baba Vanga though, because she did state that humans would be taken as captives, but she's also been very vague with some of her predictions before. I think that this prediction is slightly less likely than some of the other ones we're going to talk about, but I can by no means rule it out and have to acknowledge the fact that it might happen. Number 4 on this list is severe famine. Baba Vanga believes that in 2022 severe famine will ravage the world and lead to extreme conflicts that rack up the death toll. Now I want to point out that famine is nothing new, and there are a lot of countries that are suffering from this right now. Nigeria, South Sudan, Somalia, these are just a few These are all countries where a large part of the population doesn't have regular access to food, and hunger is a daily struggle for these people. And that's just to name a few. However, Baba Vanga's prediction takes it a step further, and she believes that this famine will impact a greater portion of the world. She believes that this will happen due to climate change related issues. Climate change has been known to cause problems for the development and upkeep of food before. This manifests itself in a variety of different ways. One is the drastic increase of storms. Climate change causes heavy and dangerous storms to appear more frequently, and this will obviously harm any crops that are growing and damage that land where those crops were intended to grow. Higher CO2 levels, and this is something that I actually didn't know, but they reduce the nutritional value of crops that were growing. So even if you grow them and you have high CO2 levels, then you're not going to get nearly as much nutrients as you would have gotten if there was less CO2. I don't want to touch on this one too much because we're going to talk about it in a later entry, but water and the lack of water will make it near impossible to grow any crops. Climate-related famine is certainly a possibility and something that I honestly think will happen. I'm not sure if we're going to see it to the scale that Baba Vanga predicts, but I definitely believe that the places that are already struggling, such as the ones that I mentioned earlier, will sadly continue to do so, and probably get worse. Number 3 on this list is the further development of virtual reality. Now, I need to clarify this because obviously virtual reality will continue to develop. We've already seen major advancements in the last 5 years. Baba Vanga thinks that this is going to take a major leap in 2022 though. She dives straight into a Black Mirror episode and predicts that virtual reality is going to get so advanced that humans will get lost in the world and become trapped in it. Now, if this is going to happen, then a lot of things will need to change in terms of VR from right now. From my understanding of virtual reality, you throw something on your face, and even though you look and you feel as if you're in another place, you're still very aware of your real physical world, and if you ever wanted to, you could just take the virtual reality thing off your face, and then you're back to regular reality. So the way that they have it set up right now, I don't see any chance of you getting lost in another world because you could just leave whenever you felt like it. However, if we were to develop virtual reality to a point where you become unconscious, then I could see how this could work. I think that it would have to be something like in the movie Inception, where you pass out and then you enter this dreamlike state. If there was any way to upload your consciousness to a virtual reality world, then we could definitely get lost in it. For right now, I don't think this is going to happen in 2022, but I think that this is 100% something that could take place in the future. If you've ever watched or played any virtual reality stuff, then you'll notice that the graphics, I mean, they're certainly not the ones that we're used to when you're playing Xbox or PlayStation or something. Who knows, maybe the government has some virtual reality technology that is way more advanced than anything available to the public that I don't know about, and that gets released in 2022, and Baba Vanga's prediction does happen. I do feel though, like this one might take a few decades still. Number 2 on this list is the appearance of a very dangerous virus from a glacier. Now, this is something that I'm going to be talking about in another video as well, but it's simply just too good and too realistic to not bring it up in this one. Baba Vanga believes that due to climate change, glaciers will melt, and in those glaciers, a virus will be released that will ravage the planet. This is so scary, not only because COVID has just happened and is still happening, so diseases are pretty triggering to me, but because there is so much truth to this. I'm sure that we've all heard that glaciers are melting and the sea levels are rising due to climate change. This is already really damaging and bad for the environment, but these glaciers do carry viruses in them as well. Scientists who examine such things have taken samples from glaciers that are thousands of years old. In these samples, they have found traces of viruses and bacteria that have managed to survive in the ice during all of this time. The things that they've found are also unlike anything that we've ever seen before in other viruses. This is a big problem and something that we need to take note of. If we've never seen these viruses before, then our immune systems have no idea how to handle them. It's like a completely foreign language to our body that has no idea what it is or what it can do. Because of this, it could totally rip through the human race if the outbreak was big enough and it was a contagious virus. Learning a new language takes time, and our immune systems might not have that kind of time to adjust to these new diseases. It should also be noted that these viruses might not just affect humans, but maybe it affects animals or plants. those things wouldn't have the defenses to deal with this either and might not be able to sustain themselves. This could collapse the whole ecosystem, which in turn could collapse the whole human race. Basically, this is something that needs to be dealt with ASAP because the damage it could cause could be irreversible. Number 1 on this list is a lack of drinking water. Baba Vanga has predicted that in 2022, the world will suffer from a lack of clean water, and that water will in turn become a very expensive and highly sought after resource. This prediction from Baba Vanga is honestly not that far-fetched at all, and I believe could have a lot of truth to it. The global population is rising every single day, and at the time of making this video, there is 7.75 billion people on the planet. That's almost a billion more than what we had in 2010, and this dramatic increase of the population will just continue to rise and rise. Every additional person that is born and living on this planet needs to have clean drinking water to survive, and as of right now, we are not replenishing that clean water as fast as we're using it up. Mexico City, one of the bigger cities in the world, is located on top of an ancient freshwater basin. This is not being refilled though, and as the city uses its water, it's beginning to sink. In fact, the city as a whole is sinking roughly 9 inches per year, which really starts to add up after a while if you think about it. California is going through something similar and has suffered a very serious drought over the last few years. Even after they got hit with some extremely heavy rainfall to counteract this, it still didn't do enough to refill what they had lost. We also have to factor in that fresh water isn't just used for our drinking, but also for the food that we eat. All of the vegetation that we grow requires fresh water to thrive. The animals that we breed, they need to drink water too. Basically, water is one of our most precious resources, and we are surely running out of it. A lack of drinking water would not only hurt our vegetation and us, but the amount of wars that it would incite and conflicts that it would cause, it would be massive. I can't say for certain that 2022 will be the year that it all comes crashing down, but Baba Vanga believes that it certainly could be. Number 5 on this list is the continued damaging effects of climate change. That's right guys, we're going there. In 2021, temperatures in North America had some record-setting numbers. Over the last few years, temperatures have been rising significantly, and 2021 was no different. The west coast of Canada and the United States were the hottest that they've ever been this past year in 2021, and we saw what rising temperatures can cause. Forest fires raged in British Columbia and in California, and with the temperatures continuing to rise, this will only get worse and worse. Something concerning as well is that the nighttime temperature was hotter than it's ever been. Typically, it's very hot in the day and then gets pretty cool in the nighttime. This allows our bodies to cool off when we sleep. However, in 2021, the temperature during the night didn't drop nearly as drastically as it usually does. And this is because the Earth is holding on to that heat in the atmosphere and it's having a hard time escaping. With all of this being said, and the fact that no real dramatic change has been made to our greenhouse gas emissions, scientists predict that this trend will continue in 2022. They've come out and said that between 2021 and 2025, there is a 90% chance that we will have the warmest global year ever. They also predict that there is a 40% chance that in that same time frame, we will reach 1.5 degrees Celsius higher than what our global temperature was at pre-industrial days. All of this heat also means that they're predicting a lot more tropical storms as well. The frequency of cyclones in the Atlantic area is supposed to rise. Forest fires, as I mentioned earlier, will continue to rage and be harder to suppress. And southwestern North America is likely to be a lot drier than it's ever been. Basically, scientists believe that 2022 will continue to break climate change records and be pretty detrimental to the Earth. Number 4 on this list is a prediction from Baba Vanga. This one is pretty bloody triggering, and I can only hope that she's wrong about it. Baba Vanga thinks that in 2022 there will be a deadly virus that is released from a glacier and that will ravage the world. Now, if you don't know who Baba Vanga is, then she was a woman who lost her eyes at a very young age, but then developed the ability to have visions. She's also made a lot of correct predictions over the years, with people saying that she has an 85% success rate. Brexit, the Syrian gas attacks, the first United States black president, all of this stuff was predicted by Baba Vanga. In 2022, she is saying that a glacier will melt due to global warming, and that in that ice will be a virus that will get released into the world, and our human immune systems won't be ready for it. After COVID, I cannot handle any more viruses or diseases or anything like that at all. The sad thing is though, that this could very well actually happen. We already spoke about global warming and how it is continuing to rise, with 2022 having the potential to be the hottest year ever. This is obviously causing the glaciers on the poles to melt. Now the whole aspect of having a virus released because of this kind of sounds like it was taken straight out of a sci-fi movie, but it's actually accurate. Scientists have found viruses in the ice before, and after testing them have realized that they are nothing like what we've ever seen. Therefore, our bodies would not be capable of fending off these viruses because they have never encountered anything that's similar to them. Some of these viruses may not even affect humans either, but they could affect animals or plants. This could be just as detrimental though, as it has the potential to absolutely annihilate the ecosystem. Either way guys, we just have to cross our fingers and hope that any viruses found in the ice aren't too dangerous, and we just dodge this bullet altogether. Number 3 on this list is another catastrophic economic recession. Yep guys, it's time to talk money, or well, I guess in this instance it would be the lack of money. After the massive economic recession that took place a little over a decade ago, everyone is still on high alert, doing their best to make certain that we don't fall into that trap ever again. This is easier said than done though, because there are often extenuating circumstances that are out of our control. For instance, COVID, that really hurt the economy and nobody saw that coming. Stuff like that is kind of impossible to predict. However, that doesn't stop people from trying to look ahead and see what the next economic year will hold for us. Right now, a positive economic recovery is seen as very likely due to many people believing that 2022 is supposed to be the first normal year back after the pandemic. People will have savings that they want to spend, they go out, they spend them, bang, the economy loves it. But experts believe that this level of economic optimism has reached an unstable place. The stock market is predicting such a big boom, and the experts don't think that the money will actually hold up to what they're predicting. It should also be noted that the percentage chance of an economic recession has been slowly rising over the last few months. Right now, it's believed that in July of next year, there will be just under a 10% chance that the entire United States economy goes into a major recession. A 1 in 10 chance, it's not horrible, but when you're playing with people's life savings and their jobs, that gets a lot scarier very quickly. Economic optimism can be a good thing, but overconfidence can bring us to a very scary place, as seen by the housing market collapse of 2007. Number 2 on this list is a prediction by Nostradamus. Now would this really be a 2022 predictions list video if we didn't have Nostradamus in it? He's basically a staple whenever it comes to scary predictions. This time, he believes that a major climate war will start in 2022. For those of you who aren't familiar with Nostradamus, he was a French astrologer and seer in the 1500s. Now we still talk about him today though, due to his major work called the Prophecies. The Prophecies is a collection of poetic quatrains that predict things to come in the world. Nostradamus has been proved correct with some of his prophecies, such as the death of Henry II, the Great Fire of London, and the French Revolution. We actually talked a little bit about Nostradamus in a previous video looking at the top 5 mysterious people who tried to warn us about the apocalypse. In 2021, Nostradamus believed that zombies would take over the world. Pretty outlandish if you ask me, but the one that we're talking about today is a little bit more reasonable in my opinion. Nostradamus says, under the opposite Babylonian climate, great will be without the outpouring. As we've already spoken about, climate change will be greatly affecting our world. Could it be possible that a country has a shortage of resources due to this climate change and has to go to war? Potentially a lack of clean drinking water could cause some type of chaos between two nations? Maybe the world enacts new climate change laws that one country refuses to follow and therefore goes to war with some other nations. I'm not sure what it's gonna be, but all of these things, they could have potential. The one thing about Nostradamus is that he was never very specific with his predictions and often left it up for interpretation. But I do think that a war involving something climate based is certainly a possibility and would be particularly horrible because war could only ever hurt the climate even more. Number 1 on this list is another prediction from Baba Vanga about a dragon taking over the world. That's right folks, clearly Baba Vanga was a very busy lady while she was alive and had multiple predictions for the year 2022. In this one, she believes that a dragon will take over the entire planet. In fact, she is quoted as saying, "A strong dragon will seize humanity. The 3 giants will unite. Some people will have red money. I see numbers 100, 5, and many zeros. So we have a lot going on here. We have dragons, giants, money that is red, and some strange numbers that kinda came out of nowhere. If we take what Baba Vanga said literally, then I can almost guarantee you that it won't come true. In my entire living life, I have never seen a dragon before, and as much as I would love to believe that they're real, I think it's safe to say that one is not going to appear next year and ravage the planet. That being said though, if we break down what she said a little bit more, then there could be some serious truth in what she's saying. Specialists of Baba Vanga believe that when she is referring to a dragon, she's actually talking about China. The giants that she's referring to, interpreters believe, are the three biggest countries in Asia: China, Russia, and India. Therefore, they will unite as a force, and the dragon, China, will take over the world. The money being read could be in reference to yuan, and the denominations of 100 or 5 could be referring to some important monetary number of those yuan that hasn't been made clear to us at this point. Now, if we take her meaning as I just described it, it actually doesn't sound nearly as outlandish as it did when we were talking about dragons. However, this would be pretty freaking bad, because I can only imagine that the giants uniting and the dragon taking over the world would mean a massive all-out war. If China, India, and Russia are involved, that also means that the use of nuclear weapons would probably take place, in which case 2022, it's really going to be a lousy year, guys.
Number 5 on this list is the rise of artificial intelligence. The moon in the full of night over the high mountain, the new sage with a lone brain sees it. By his disciples invited to be immortal, eyes to the south, hands in bosoms, bodies in the fire. That was a poem from the one and only Nostradamus. Probably the most famous prophesizer of all time, if that's even a thing. Nostradamus was a French astrologer and seer, and is most known for his work called The Prophecies, where he pops the heck off and prophesizes pretty much the entire world's future. This poetic quatrain that I read is from that book, and people believe it to be in reference to artificial intelligence taking over. Right now, AI is definitely the craze. Pretty much any billionaire who's anybody is currently investing insane amounts of money into AI, thinking it'll be the way of the future. At the same time though, a lot of them are coming out and warning us about how dangerous this could be when AI is able to get consciousness. Well, in this poem, Nostradamus says the new sage with a lone brain sees it, and people think that's in reference to AI getting consciousness. This is the new sage and it can only know. Then he goes on to say that there are bodies in the fire and all that jazz, and that just really doesn't sound like a fun time at all. Experts still think that we're a ways away from getting AI to reach full consciousness, but they're pretty much all in agreement that it's going to happen one day. They're also pretty much in agreement that computers and robots will be smarter than humans, because they can just take in more information and process data way quicker than we would ever be able to. Comment down below when you think AI is going to start causing serious problems for humans. Is it in 2022, or do we still have a bit more time left? Number 4 on this list is the Rapture. The Rapture is another one of those doomsday predictions that's been thrown around for what seems like ever. According to Wikipedia, the Rapture is an eschatological theological position held by some Christians, particularly within branches of American evangelicalism, consisting of an end-time event when all Christian believers who are alive, along with resurrected believers, would rise in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. Basically what this means is that for those devout Christian followers, life is going to get pretty awesome, but for everyone else, life on earth is going to suck. People have speculated that the earth would turn into a hell-like place where demons roam the streets. As you can probably imagine, this would be pretty bad and wouldn't be the greatest existence ever. The Rapture has been discussed as a possibility for years now, but the most recent claim has it pegged for 2028. Granted, this is always changing, and it feels like at any given year, someone is prophesizing that the Rapture could be coming. At this rate, it feels like it could come tomorrow, but nobody really knows. If the Rapture was to happen though, no reason to think that 2022 couldn't be the year. Number 3 is an asteroid. Now, an asteroid hitting Earth has been talked about as a potential doomsday world-ending scenario for pretty much as long as we've been aware of asteroids. We've talked a lot about this on this channel before, and depending on the size of asteroid, the entire planet could be totally wiped out. In fact, this has gotten some more attention in pop culture recently with the movie Don't Look Up. Starring Leonardo DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence, the whole movie is about a massive asteroid coming to Earth and potentially killing all of us if it hits. Well, according to the Messiah Foundation International, we only have a few years left before this becomes a sad and terrifying reality. 2026 is the year to mark on the calendar, folks, only 4 years from now. Riaz Ahmad Gohar Shadi was a spiritual leader who's credited with starting up the Messiah Foundation International. He wrote a book called The Religion of God, and in that book he's predicted 2026 as being the year the world is going to get hit with a massive celestial object. This object would be big enough to destroy the whole planet and all life on Earth. Now, I looked into this prophecy, and from what I found, I think we should be okay. Most experts who study space think that we have quite some time before we need to start worrying about such things. The closest thing that we're currently aware of is an asteroid called 2010 RF12. This is apparently the asteroid with the highest probability of hitting Earth, with about a 5% chance of doing so. However, this also isn't supposed to occur until 2095, giving us plenty of time to prepare. Now, I'm gonna be honest, who really knows with this stuff? Space is pretty crazy and we're learning new things every day. Maybe there is an asteroid we're unaware of, or that scientists haven't revealed to the public that's coming to Earth, and for that reason I suppose that this prophecy might happen. But if it does, then at least we still have 4 years to plan for it, and hopefully we'll just avoid it altogether. Number 2 on this list is World War III. This is something that hasn't just been prophesized by one person, but by multiple. However, if we did want to put this on one guy, then our main man Nostradamus is back at it again, because he's been noted as predicting a third world war in 2022. A great article by the Daily Record talks about this possibility when they write, "There are serious concerns over a possible global war in the coming year, and one possible cause could be the ongoing tensions between China and Taiwan. The incursions from nuclear-capable Chinese warplanes has ratcheted up tensions over the tiny US-backed island. Relations between the two nations are at the worst in 40 years, Taiwan's defense minister said at the end of last year. Western allies of Taiwan have expressed their concern at China's open display of military might, and it's widely feared any form of armed confrontation could quickly escalate into a global conflict. Meanwhile, Russia has reportedly approved plans for urgent mass graves amid fears a war could break out after an invasion of Ukraine. Russian outlet MK say that the burial sites were constructed as a priority after they allegedly appeared on leaked legal documents that are expected to come into force on February 1st. Those are just some of the possible scenarios where something major could start, but there are also tons of other areas in the world in disarray right now where I could see something horrible taking place. All it would require is a few frustrated people deciding to push the button, and then bam, we're at a place of no return and might damage our planet beyond repair. Hopefully all of this won't come to fruition, and those who have the power to send us into war will exercise their power to also keep us out of it. Number 1 on this list is a lethal virus. Known as the Nostradamus of the Balkans, the blind mystic Baba Vanga has some very scary things coming in 2022 for humans. One of the worst ones, and probably most triggering at this point, is a massive lethal virus attacking Earth. After several years of being in a pandemic, I think it's safe to say that humans are pretty tired of lethal diseases. Baba Vanga isn't holding back on us though, and she expects this one to be really bad. It's apparently going to come from Siberia and will all start due to global warming. Now this honestly might not be that far off at all, which makes it that much more scarier. Guarantee BBVA writes, in August 2016, in a remote corner of Siberian tundra called the Yamal Peninsula in the Arctic Circle, an individual died and at least 20 people were hospitalized after being infected by anthrax. The theory is that over 75 years ago, a reindeer infected with anthrax died and its frozen carcass became trapped under a layer of frozen soil known as permafrost. There it stayed until a heat wave in the summer of 2016 when the permafrost thawed. This exposed the reindeer corpse and released infectious anthrax into nearby water and soil and then into the food supply. More than 2,000 reindeer grazing nearby became infected, which then led to the small number of human cases. The fear is that this will not be an isolated case. As the Earth warms, more permafrost will melt. Under normal circumstances, superficial permafrost layers about 50 centimeters deep melt every summer. But now global warming is gradually exposing older permafrost layers. Frozen permafrost soil is the perfect place for bacteria to remain alive for very long periods of time, perhaps as long as 1 million years. That means melting ice could potentially open up a Pandora's box of diseases. So Baba Vanga might sadly be onto something here, and that could just be horrible. There could be diseases that are frozen that we just don't know anything about and might absolutely ravage the population. Honestly guys, we just need to pray that our immunities can hold up if something like this did ever happen.
Number 5 on this list is the Southern Television broadcast interruption. Now this interruption actually happened many years in the past, but we believe that it was from some creature living in the future. Wikipedia says, the Southern Television broadcast interruption was a broadcast signal intrusion that occurred on the 26th of November 1977 in parts of southern England in the United Kingdom. The audio of the Southern Television broadcast was replaced by a voice claiming to represent the Ashtar Galactic Command, delivering a message instructing humanity to abandon its weapons so it could participate in a full awakening and achieve a higher state of evolution. After 6 minutes, the broadcast returned to its scheduled program. Subsequent investigations showed that the Hannington transmitter of the Independent Broadcasting Authority had rebroadcast the signal from a small but nearby unauthorized transmitter instead of the intended source at Row Ridge Transmitting Station. The hoaxer was never identified. Now, the radio station claimed that this was a breakthrough in sound and apologized, but many have theorized that breakthrough came from the future. It's believed that based on the message, this was a transmission from an alien living hundreds or maybe even thousands of years in the future. Now, specifically, this alien said, "This is in order that you may share in the Great Awakening, as the planet passes into the new age of Aquarius. The new age can be a time of great peace and evolution for your race, but only if your rulers are made aware of the evil forces that can overshadow their judgments." Now, for those that don't know, the age of Aquarius is a term used in astrology to define the current or forthcoming age that we're currently living in. So basically, this alien told us that we need to shift gears and do something different to switch the ages. How do we do that though? That all remains unknown. Number 4 on this list is John Titor. John Titor is one of the most well-known alleged time travelers of our generation. On an online message board between the year 2000 and 2001, John filled a lot of people in on his exploits in the future. Wikipedia says, John Titor became popular as he claimed to be a time traveler from 2036 on a military mission. Holding the many worlds interpretation as correct and consequently every time travel paradox as impossible, he stated that many events which occurred up to his time would indeed occur in this timeline. These included a devastating civil war in the US in 2008, followed by a short nuclear World War III in 2015, which will kill 3 billion people. In the years following his last posts and disappearance in 2001, the non-fulfillment of his specific predictions made his popularity decrease. Criticism has pointed out flaws in Titor's stories, and investigations suggested his character may be a hoax and a creation of 2 siblings from Florida. So yeah, in all honesty, not really too worried about John's claims here. Mainly because most of them have already been proven to be false just based on the fact that we're in the year 2022 and they haven't happened yet. Number 3 on this list is the Great Earthquake. Okay guys, so this one was literally supposed to have happened like a few days ago. A TikToker named Kawhi Leonard, no, not the basketball player, is a self-proclaimed time traveler. News 18 says he has predicted quite a bizarre future, which includes 2 million people disappearing mysteriously on August 9th this year. Leonard, in his first prediction, drew up America's biggest earthquake, known as the Great Split, on July 14th, 2022. The time traveler then mentioned the emergence of a new species of creatures called stalkers the same year. So here's the positive. We are past July 14th. Therefore, we should be on the clear on this one would think. However, even though we're past the date of the Great Earthquake, I wouldn't be shocked if my time traveler was off by a few weeks in his calculations or something like that, which could then mean it's still possible for this event to transpire. There's also the whole other event that happens in August that we have to worry about. Hopefully, it's all just a bunch of smoke though, because a giant earthquake, 2 million dead, and these things called stalkers, they don't sound like a great time.
Number 2 on this list is the LA water park. The Daily Mail says, a man claiming to be a time traveler says he has photographic evidence that Los Angeles will be completely underwater by the year 5000. The man, known as Edward, claims he was part of a top secret experiment while working at a laboratory in LA back in 2004 that allowed him to time travel to the future. In an interview on Apex TV, Edward, whose face and voice had been disguised, said he traveled to the year 5000 and met with a man who informed him of the post-apocalyptic floods. It was unbelievable. I was standing on a huge wooden platform. Not only me, houses, buildings, vehicles, of course all made from wood, he said in the interview, which took place in a secret location in his native Armenia. After I realized it was the same city, Los Angeles, but underwater, just it was flooded and the whole city was underwater and people were living on the water. Edward suggested he managed to take a photo of LA underwater with a camera he had time traveled with as part of the experiment. He pulled the photo out from his coat during the interview, which surfaced online. Edward claims the flooding was a direct result of global warming. Pieces of ice in both poles saw that enough had been melted and the world dropped under the water, he said. So obviously there are a few questions that come up when we hear this news. First off, how did you end up in LA in the year 5000? Like, if you can actually travel all the way there, then that's pretty sick, but you're gonna need to show a bit of proof here, my guy. Then we need to start evaluating whether or not this could actually happen or not, and I mean, I do hate to say, but I could totally believe this. Number 1 on this list is the Las Vegas clouds. So apparently in pretty much exactly 100 years, you are not going to want to be in Las Vegas. David Coleman says a self-proclaimed time traveler from the year 2030 has released a video he claims to be of Las Vegas in 100 years time. A clip that appeared on the YouTube channel Apex TV showed a man known as Noah discussing his experiences from the future. He shows what he claims is footage from 2120 and tells viewers he came back to 2018 after a failed top secret mission. And Noah reckons his video clearly shows the impact global warming will have in the future. He explained the red clouds are global warming. You can see it's everywhere. I can remember it being incredibly hot. I'm pretty sure they're working on it in the future. Well, if there are red clouds of death in the sky, then I would hope that somebody's looking into it. This is obviously pretty scary stuff because 2120 really isn't that far away from right now. Like, I probably won't be around to see that, but it's possible that a few of you watching this video, maybe you have a shot at watching that firsthand. Now, in all honesty, let's be real. Do I trust the word of this guy who says he's a time traveler? Not really. But once again, and similarly to our LA entry, this is very possible. I don't know if we're gonna have red clouds per se, but a total change in the environment and natural disasters could totally happen.